my name is Dessa. This is Beak. This is Lazerbeak. I figure we'll do this in 3 kind of distinct steps. For those of you who haven't heard of Doomtree or know why we're sitting up here on high stools with microphones, I'll provide a little bit of context about who we are and what we do. And then we'll talk a little bit about how the Doomtree business process works. That's like the primary thrust of the talk today, is how to make something out of nothing. I think most people are probably looking at low budgets and big passion and trying to figure out a way on really limited resources to make their presence known. So that's what we do for a modest living. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then throughout, I'm game to field questions.
Yeah, we love that. We love questions.
Continuously. So if you've got one, after we do our intros, feel free to throw your hand up at any time. Okay, so Lazerbeak and I are 2 of a 7-member collective named Doomtree, and we're based in Minneapolis, and a couple of our members have now
scattered to St.
Have
Paul.
scattered to St. Paul.
In New York.
In New York, yeah. So mostly Twin Cities in New York. Very, very fashionable places.
Yeah.
And we're running on 10 years.
Yep, about a decade.
Years. Most of the dudes in Doomtree met in high school, 17, 18 years old, maybe a little bit younger even.
Yeah, some even younger, but a lot of us come from the same high school, same area, so we've known each other now for, some of us, over half our lives. So.
Right. And almost every stage of growth in Doomtree, if we were a tortoise or the hare thing, has been a tortoise kind of game. It's been very organic in that there was this group of friends who liked making music, decided to make some together, and very, very naturally sort of distributed roles and resources. So one of the dudes in that group, whose stage name is POS, he's like a people person, He's the dude at the party who, like, 40 minutes in, everyone is turned to and kind of waiting for the next anecdote. And he was really good at forging some connections with booking agents, with club bookers. And for years, at least as he tells the story, he's looking up their numbers when we were still looking up numbers like this instead of like this. And he was yellow paging, like First Avenue, and trying to call that general number and say, "Hi, my name is POS, and I'm in a rap group called Doomtree." And he got every week, on Tuesday when he called, turned down, until finally there was an opening and he got in. So very naturally, as he's kind of talking to the same woman on the phone, going, "Hi, it's Tuesday, and I'm hoping for my weekly rejection. It's me, POS." He's making some kind of friendly relations there. Meanwhile, one of the other dudes in the crew, Cecil Otter, he wasn't quite as eager to forge personal handshake relationships, but he was really good at like hand lettering. He has a beautiful hand style, kind of graph style dude. So he could help out with a lot of the album covers that people were like photocopying at Kinko's. So when I met you guys, I think we were still photocopying stuff at Kinko's.
We certainly were. We were still doing CDRs, buying the 50 packs at Micro Center or whatever, and whipping those up for shows every once in a while.
I think somebody's mom had a computer, or somebody's friend had a computer that could burn 3 discs in a row. And I remember that being a really big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we would sit and kind of assemble those in our CDR cases and sell them at shows. Flash forward, I don't know, 7, 8 years. Right now, Doomtree is an LLC, which is just sort of like the simplest way that you can become a business entity in Minnesota. And we still have our original member roster, having lost a couple to attrition as they decided to take different life paths. But like, for example, this year, we're gearing up for a release of our next album.
Yep, next crew record, No Kings.
No Kings,
Plug.
November 22nd. Mm-hmm. Track number 6 is awesome, as are the other 11. And we're doing 7 nights to help celebrate the release and to ring out the year at the First Avenue in Minneapolis. So we're doing 5 nights in the entry and 2 nights in the main room there. So combine all those nights and you've got quite a few thousands of tickets to move. So it's been a shallow incline, but it's been pretty steadily upwards. And I think the upshot from where Beak and I sit is that we've been able to maintain total artistic control. If something feels weird, we say, "This feels weird, man. I don't really want to do this." And that's okay, because we don't owe anybody money.
Yep.
Nobody can say you have to do this because you owe me $250,000, because I don't owe you anything. So we've really maintained kind of self-determinism throughout the run of our career.
Exactly.
True or false?
Too true.
It's almost too true. And so today, what we wanted to talk about is kind of those beginnings, how to do something on like a zero budget. And we had brainstormed sitting in Lazerbeak's Camry, where I think our best ideas happen. And we were trying to think from absolute jump, if you have somewhere between $0 to promote a record and let's say $300 to promote a record, like what are the things that you would do? And I think we came up with a similar list, but a slightly different list of answers. So if you had $0 to $300 to promote some music or your group, what do you do?
$0 to $300, and you already have the music.
Well, one of the things you said in the car was like, here you have access to some facilities where.
Right. That's true. So you guys have studios here, right? You can record for free. Is that accurate? Okay,
and anybody who thinks you can't record for free? Who's like, I can't do that, and why not?
Kind of. I mean, I have low budget stuff at home.
Sure.
But I'm a visitor.
Okay.
Oh,
so you don't get to record for free.
Okay, well, you can't record for free unless you make one friends with. You know what I mean? Like, why sit with them? Sit with these guys.
But yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And even over the last 10 years, obviously, you guys know things have gotten a lot easier to record on your own. So you don't need to book all that studio time sometimes, depending on your project. But say you got a couple songs. I think more than anything at this point in the game, it's gotten to a point where if no one knows who you are, it does now make more sense, and everyone says it, but it makes more sense to just get it out there so people can hear it instead of trying to make that quick buck right away. Put some songs up there. It doesn't have to be a whole album. I think a lot of people screwed the game up a little bit by putting out a mixtape every week for free because the music gets diluted and then people don't care as much about the music. But put your best foot forward and put 5 songs out for free, whatever. Get the word out. And then beyond that, get the word out around your city where you are right now. And whether if you have $300, I say figure out how to get a show, make a release show for whatever if it's 5 songs that are free on the internet, make a release show for that. And with that $300, I still think it's important to print flyers, go hand to hand, let people know, meet people at shows, let them know, and maybe you got someone that's someone that's a publicist or something just small time locally, but anyone that can help you, whether it's online or in the print, just to kind of like get your name out there. You want people to know who you are first.
And I think, let's do like an offline stuff that you can do, so without computers and with computers. Online, when you say put music out there, what are you talking about?
I think you could do the Bandcamp route or just a free zip file, whatever is working,
sure.
But just free. Bandcamp, you can host stuff for free.
What is Bandcamp, just in case?
Bandcamp is it's basically like an iTunes, but that you set up for yourself. So you'd have, say your artist name is Young Steakhouse.
Sure.
So you'd have like bandcamp.youngsteakhouse.com or whatever, and then you can upload your songs, and people can go to that site and they can download your songs for free, or you can have them pay money, just like on iTunes, or you could have them do a donation thing where if they like it, they can donate whatever they want. It's kind of like PayPal with music, I guess.
How much does that cost to do?
I thought it was free originally, and now I think they take a percentage similar to what iTunes would take off your stuff, maybe 25%.
But so I don't need money to open my Young Steakhouse account?
No, you need a computer, or you need to borrow someone's computer.
Fair enough. Okay, so in addition to like a Bandcamp environment, I know that probably a lot of this is familiar. Let's just do the due diligence though of listing some of the sites on which you think it's important to have an artistic presence. Do you want to just shout some out? Let's try to get 10. SoundCloud. Bandcamp will count. Facebook. SoundClick. If I end up with 4 fingers up, we're all going to be very sad. Twitter.
Yeah.
MySpace? Sure, man.
I guess, yeah.
Say it again. LinkedIn or LinkedIn? I like or LinkedIn? That's 2 fingers. Google Plus. Nice.
Tumblr, yeah. I think
Tumblr.
That counts. I think that counts more than ever these days.
I think so too. So what's Tumblr?
The rolling blog thing. You can just follow a bunch of people. It's like Twitter, just blogs.
It's like I've never heard the word rolling blog, and that's exactly what it is. I'm behind the games. It's a rolling blog. It's very quick. Very often it's picture based. And increasingly, one of the things that we were noticing is like, of all the stuff you can do for free, one of you, if not you right now, has a semi-expensive phone in your pocket. How many people's phones take video?
That's good.
And if your hand is down, look at the hands around you. Trade some favors, man. Yeah. Right? So if your phone takes video, Sims and Lazerbeak and I yesterday were at a Doomtree meeting, and in a not at all philosophical way, we're trying to figure out how to get this new record off the ground, this No Kings record. And we're arguing with one another. Do we want to put out another song? Do we want to spend the cheese to make a good video? And those can get expensive, you know? You really got to feel confident, like, oh, if we spend this money, is it really going to encourage people to check out the CD? And if they check it out, are they going to buy it? Or are they just going to like download it off a torrent site? So we're having these conversations for real. And one of the things that Sims said was, man, I don't know. You just put up that MP3. I think people are less and less inclined all the time to press play on a link that just has audio. So if you've got a decent song, if you've got a song you're proud of, and you've got a friend with an iPhone, you know, or you've got an iPhone or a smartphone that takes halfway decent video, set it up, man. You know, put the sheet over the couch. Arrange the track lighting.
Sure.
You know?
Even if it doesn't
Christmas
look
lights.
awesome.
Yeah,
like,
even
I think a not so awesome looking video is still going to be someone's going to be more likely to at least listen to half your song than just click a SoundCloud button these days, because there's so much content out there. There's so many artists out there more than ever now. So if you can make it look halfway decent, and I'm not saying we should put out bad product by any means, but it's worth a shot. Or if you want to do like a 30-second video and it's just a portion of your song or whatever, anything that people can, you know, if you can get out there, people can connect with you. It's really about selling your personality more than ever now too, not just good music. So it's like, if someone sees you and they like you, they're going to like your song even more. So what better way to do that with a video that you star in?
And it doesn't have to be like a music video with a theme. We're talking essentially like a performance video. You know, so if you're a singer-songwriter, like sit behind your keyboard and have, you know, one of your friends sing backup with you and play the tune. All the better if you can have like 2 friends with cameras. When Lazerbeak and I just played CMJ with the rest of the Doomtree clique, which is in New York, and it's a festival that's kind of akin to South by Southwest that the radio community puts on. So like a lot of college radio DJs end up there. But while we were all in New York, we decided to shoot a video to try to promote this new disc. And you know, you'll meet artists, and there are artists here in the Twin Cities who are charting higher for sure than us on the Billboard charts. But we've been at it for 10 years. We've got a little bit of traction. And we shot a video where the light source was the flash from an iPhone camera. So all of us are performing to a handheld camera, and there's a girl with an iPhone, you know, the flash steadily on, trying to make some like cool atmospheric effects by moving it above our heads and trying to find some cool shadows, you know, of your eye sockets and your bottom lip looking kind of ghostly and stuff. And I think that'll probably be one of the more successful videos for this record.
It'll probably be the first video we roll out with, you know, release week. And it was decided that we were going to make it at 9 o'clock that morning. Oh, we've got all these people here. We have kind of a day off before the show. We really need a music video. It's hard to get 7 people in the same room these days. Okay, we know a couple video guys in New York. We have a couple iPhones. Like, let's do it. And we haven't seen it yet, but I feel like it'll be acceptable. It'll work.
I think we might be able to debut it next visit still.
Yeah, I think we'll have a rough cut. If we can show you guys what we're talking about. We'll show you the rough cut next week when we're back here, if you want to come back.
We'll be back on Tuesday, so if you want to see how that process did or didn't work, come on back then.
Yeah.
Also, to be real frank, I'm happy to be a pretty open book. That video cost $1,000 total, with kind of hiring a professional editor and doing everything else on the cheap. So those numbers, as music is free, music is shared, and it's harder to figure out exactly how to get your revenue. You know, 7 professionals are making a music video off $1,000 per head. That's not that much, you know, to be.
And if you really knew someone and you were just on the come up and they were on the come up, I'm sure through bartering or some, like, you know, if, hey, you're making a documentary, I can give you some songs for free. Would you make this music video for me? There's ways to do that for zero. People, you know, there are video guys that have the equipment. You just gotta glad hand, is that a term?
That's it.
You gotta meet them, hang out with them, and see what you can give to them, what they can give to you. And you know, a lot of our earlier videos were done for less than $1,000 because we had people just as hungry as we were in the video world. We were in the music world, and we found ways to kind of help each other out. We've done that with graphic design people. We've done that with getting our website. You know, it's a lot of just getting out there, meeting people, seeing what you have to offer them, what they have to offer you, and in the friendliest way possible, trading, basically.
Absolutely. And as hungry as everybody in here is for listeners, you know, there's that exact same conversation happening at art schools, right? Like, how do I get people to my art opening this weekend? And I just made this small film. How do I get people to go to my website and check it out? And they're freaking out. You know, they don't have money. They're freaking out, trying to figure out how to attract a listenership, a viewership, a fan base, a support group. So let's do another show of hands. We already did one for smartphones and iPhones. How many people are halfway decent in this crowd at Photoshop?
That's awesome.
Look at those hands. I mean, for real. People whose hands are not up. Memorize them. Who are you going to talk to afterwards? Okay, now who's really good at writing? Put your hand up who's a pretty good writer? How about that? Who's a pretty good writer?
A decent writer. Okay, there you go.
Look around. If your hand isn't up particularly.
So maybe there's your press release, or maybe there's your bio, or, you know, all these little things that you do need if you're going to try to present like a professional presentation, I guess.
Totally.
All those things come into play. You know, we have different people. For the longest time, Dessa wrote all our one sheets and all of our bios and anything that was going out because she was the best writer in our crew.
And Paper Tiger, our DJ, took all our photos. You know? So if you're not great at taking photos, find somebody who is and trade them something. If you're not good at anything except for making music, there's still stuff you can trade. That stuff is sweat equity, which means like doing chores essentially, you know, like putting in some time in exchange for a service. So, for example, one of the things that I mention every time I'm lucky enough to be invited into Jan's class is that there's like a lot of press in town eager to find new talent. You know, like reporters are willing to cover stuff. And I remember listening to another artist kind of mention the fact that, man, they gotta pick somebody every Friday and Saturday night to suggest that you go and see as a showgoer. I mean, radio's gotta keep the silence away, right?
Why not you?
Yeah, exactly. Like newspapers can't go out blank. Somebody's gotta get the coverage. So one of the easy ways to like start getting into that groove is, even if you're not like, you don't have a smartphone, you don't have Photoshop, and you're not that good graphically, is volunteer within a friend group, you know, one of every talent at the table. Even if you don't make music together, even if you hate each other's music and say, let's share resources. I'll spend 4 hours this week going through like the newspapers and magazines here in town and just writing out the names and email addresses of all the music reporters. And then you guys can have that list. So I'll give you the press list and you take my press shot and then you do my album cover. Fair enough. You know, even if you never talk to those cats again, like everybody just won. And there's not, you know, there's no need, I think, like we were talking about this the other day, the city isn't a necessarily like head-to-head artist competition city. It's collaborative.
It's super collaborative, and we're blessed to live in the Twin Cities, where like not only is there strong art scene in all, you know, in actually making art and making music and making video, but there's also like, then there's the reporters, and there's actually blogs that cover just this city because there's enough demand for that. There's enough people in the city that actually cares about this stuff, and I take that for granted a lot. We go on tour to other cities and we rarely see that to the height at which we see it here. So there's demand for it. There's a base that is already primed that wants this stuff. You know, that's how a place like The Current can succeed like they do, playing the type of music they do. Even Radio K, stuff like that. Like everyone is kind of helping each other out, and everyone needs everyone basically. So it's a good place to be.
How many people are from out of town? Okay,
oh, wow.
Let's list some sources then. So let's say if you were going to sit down and trade some hustle for some skills from your peers, like what would be, if we were just starting out now, the news sources from which would be most likely to get a little bit of coverage?
That's a good question. I mean, I think
let's start. I think blogs are always easier than print.
Blogs are going to be the first. Yeah, if you're trying to get coverage, I'd say there's Give Me Noise is like the City Pages blog online version, where they cover tons of stuff. So sending submissions to places like that. There's actually a lot of like even local rap blogs or local indie blogs. So that type of stuff helps you get to that next level of maybe getting some print coverage.
So Give Me Noise. Who else knows one? A local blog for music. MFR, what does that stand for? MFR is a blog called Minneapolis Fucking Rocks. And they do, as you can imagine, they do totally local coverage. So they're a great site. And not only do they have to cover somebody, they have to cover somebody local. Like that you know what I mean? It's like the lottery tickets when you see that your chances are better every time. Like, sweet, only 19 people bought a ticket for this one. I would suggest those two for online. There's also a site called Reviler.
Mm-hmm. Is Culture Bully from here too? I mean, they're like a
Culture
national
Bully,
one,
yep.
but they're from here. There's a lot. I mean, it doesn't take much on a quick search to find that type of stuff out. So all their websites immediately are going to have a contact name, send submissions to, stuff like that. So it's totally worth a day of your time or an afternoon of your time. If you're really trying to just jump into that initial thing, like more than ever, I think that really is helpful. And people do look at that stuff.
Another one is Twin Cities Daily Planet. The name there is Jay. The name at Gimme Noise is Andrea. You can mention if you're inclined, hey, Dessa came to our school. She was mentioning places to send some music. And she mentioned the site was a good one. Don't tell them that I vouch for music because I haven't heard your music and that would be whack. But go ahead and mention that. You know, start making those personal connections. Try to find something that you have in common from the jump. Let's move up a level and talk about radio. You mentioned a couple already.
Sure. Yeah, so there's Radio K, which is like, I didn't realize how many of you guys weren't from here, I guess. So Radio K is like the U of M college station, wherever they play. They're probably the most supportive of local music from the ground up. Yeah. So whether it's college bands, they play anything, basically. Get a hold of them.
Totally. And as you can imagine, there's like, on those lower levels, you're just fighting less traffic, you know? It is like the lottery. Like the payout might be a little bit smaller, but just fewer people buying tickets, so your chances of getting it are bigger. Also, I would do a quick search for the colleges and universities that are in town, in the Twin Cities, because those cats are peers of yours, and almost everybody runs a radio station. So let's list 5 colleges, just to have a shared list now. Let's list 5 colleges or universities that are in town. Hamlin. Mankato, which is a little bit out of town, sure. Augsburg. U of M, McAllister. Pretend that, one more. MCAT,
Sure.
Fantastic. So most of those spots, if you just Google McAllister radio station, bang, right away you get call letters. You're gonna find a website, you find contact information. Hey, my name is Susie Q. I'm from McNally Smith. Just finished my first project. Here's some MP3s. I'd love the chance if you got a moment to take a listen to them, any feedback that you might have. All of a sudden, you're really positioning yourself in a pretty good spot if you've got strong material for your first radio spins, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's a lot, like, I remember being in junior high or whatever and having a band, and it was a lot more the mentality then of like, you're going to get discovered. Somehow you're awesome, and someone's just going to pull you up out of this and do everything for you, and you slowly learn the ropes and everything. But it really is, if you can be proactive in these ways, like it's a lot less of wondering when that day is going to come that you're discovered, and just if you can keep knocking down these little things step by step, it's like everything leads to another thing, and it keeps, like we said, that slow incline. But if you keep doing that and you keep playing an active role in your own career, then I think that that's the best thing you got going for you.
Those of you who have attended other discussions have heard me say something similar, but to my surprise in learning the ropes in music, I remember as a kid, no joke, walking down the canned food section and singing, hoping that some A&R dude was shopping. Do you know what I mean?
That's kind of weird.
It was super weird. But like singing loudly, hoping that some dude, in his suit would be like, hold on, Martha. Who are
Put down
you?
the corn.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get corn later. We're going to make $1 million. But I remember thinking that it was very much kind of that discovery thing. You sort of hope that there's like this crane that's just going to hook you by the collar and save you from your life and put you down in front of a Neumann somewhere in New York, in front of a Neumann microphone. And to me, the way that the music industry has moved, and I won't speak for Lazerbeak, because Lazerbeak was in this music industry a lot longer than I was. He's been in it since he was like 14 as part of a band called the Plastic Constellations. I joined when I was about 20, which is now 10 years ago. So I was sort of like getting in when people were saying that it was collapsing, but the collapse had already sort of happened before I started getting in the game. But to me, it feels like the same kind of realizations, almost like the feminist movement. Like, you don't sit and wait for Mr. Right on a white horse. You draft up a prenup. You keep your joint like your separate checking account. Right. And that's how it's felt for me. It's like you make your own. And if you're lucky and you get discovered, all the better. But right now, you're not discovered. And Lazerbeak and I are not talent scouts. So why not build a career, climb a hill from which to call from? You're indie now. you know, and until somebody with a suit and a pen comes at you, you're gonna stay indie. So you only recommend yourselves to the people who might discover you by building your own fan base. And heck, then if they never come, you're already well on your way.
Yep. And I'm even surprised, you know, we've built a modest success nationally, and I honestly thought more people would have come calling to even have meetings with us and stuff like that, and there really hasn't been that many. Like, even as we get bigger and bigger, we definitely take meetings and stuff like that, but it's not like you hit a certain point and all of a sudden there's a bidding war, you know what I mean? I used to think that that was like that, and I would have thought that where we are right now, in our place, that we would be hearing from more people. And we're not, we're doing it ourselves still, and we're making it work, and we prefer doing it that way now, but it was out of necessity that we started that way.
Let's do a frank calibration of where we're at too. And we certainly have highs and lows now still. You know, we'll play shows. I think the last really crummy show that I played, it was still a lot of fun, but like technically, financially crummy with all of Doomtree was in a venue called The Venue, which had been repurposed like 9 hours before we got there from a supermarket. So here I am singing in a supermarket again, hoping to get discovered. But it was like this empty warehouse of a space, and maybe could have fit 1,100?
Probably. It was in Casper, Wyoming.
Casper,
for the
Wyoming.
record. Yeah.
And
Don't go
I
there.
think 20, 40 people came, maybe 20 or 40 people. That was our last low, at least as I would dock it. Our last highs, you know, we've played to crowds of 5, 6, 7, 8,000.
Yep.
At
some festival shows to big crowds, and
yeah. And
so,
we play, you know, Canada on the tours, and it's always exciting to feel like you need your passport for professional purposes, right? You know, so we have, you know, built up something of a legitimate fan base nationally. We've been in places like the LA Times, and members of us, the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Montreal Gazette, and been written up from Hong Kong to London. So yeah, you do sort of think that by now some dude in a suit with a pen full of magic is going to come with an offer for you. But he's not coming. Or if he is,
maybe he's coming for some of you, but
he might be coming for some of you. But I would suggest not waiting for him. You know, get a head start on where to meet him. I want to open it up to questions a little bit. Do people have any about? Yeah, go ahead. Where are you from? Because you don't go here, right?
I'm just from Blaine.
From Blaine, okay.
My question for you guys is, I've never heard any of you guys touch on it, but I know POS is kind of like a part of Rhymesayers or funded or backfunded. I don't know how that works. Have they ever offered you guys, or are you guys at the point where you want to do your own thing now? Where do you guys stand?
Will you repeat the question in case Cat's in the back?
Oh, he was just wondering. So POS, one of the artists in Doomtree, is actually signed to Rhymesayers, which I'm assuming you guys know about, but they're the big dogs here as far as rap labels go. And he signed early on when we were still just getting going. But you're just wondering if there's a relationship there, if we've talked about joining up with them, basically?
Yeah, I guess, just basically your relationship with them.
Yeah.
Why you guys aren't as close.
Totally.
As POS is.
Sure. They signed him early on when we were getting started, and we just kind of kept building all throughout that time period, and I think we're definitely friendly with those guys. Like, I think we both work hand in hand a lot, and obviously we share an artist together, so that relationship needs to be special. But yeah, as we've just kept going, you know, we've had talks here and there of how we could make certain things work. It just seemed like we're a crew now. It's not like you can have one guy anymore. It's like we're all of us, so we're a lot to take on now. And it just has made more sense, I think, as we've continued, that we just build this organically ourselves, and certainly much respect to everything that those guys are doing. And we learned a lot from them early on, and kind of how to make this work. So.
You know, also a totally frank answer is I remember years ago, you know, chatting with them about maybe getting something going. It doesn't make sense to combine forces in any way. But then realizing that it's almost like by the time the dude with the magic pen comes, you've already built what he might have offered you. Because they're being very cautious, understandably. Money's tight. It's scary to take on risks. So a lot of times it feels like people are offering you to give you a piggyback a block and a half. And it's almost like, oh, but I'm already here. You know, I think I might just try to make that run myself. So we've been really cool. They've helped with a lot of our projects and done pre-orders for us. And you know, we hype their shows, shared interest in that artist. But one of the things that I might add, that relates to the Rhymesayers question, but is even more general, we've got 7 artists. POS is signed to Rhymesayers. Cecil Otter put out his last CD with Strange Famous, which is Sage Francis's record. And I remember freaking out a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, maybe maybe it's like snipers. You know, maybe we're like going down, like then there's gonna be no one but me left, right? And nobody wanted to be like the last at dodgeball. But I remember Sim saying, wait a minute, maybe because Cecil just put out his record on Strange Famous, you assume that means he can't be on Doomtree anymore. And I did. I was like, yeah, right? I mean, usually when you hear about artists like switching labels, they leave the one, and then they go to the next. And I think most of our career has been making up our own rules. And Sim said, wait a minute, what if we just said that Doomtree is just whatever you want to be in it? And so even if you never make another CD, but you make figurines, then we'll just offer them on Doomtree. And I was like, word, yeah, okay, no rules. We'll figure out what seems like fair ways to share profits, and that's a challenge. I won't pretend that that's always easy. But we've just been like, hey man, it's our clubhouse. We'll figure out the rules of engagement. And that means maybe tithing a little bit, like in that Catholic tradition, right? When they pass the wicker basket, and you throw in your couple bucks as it goes down the aisle to indicate that you're part of the group and that you're financially supporting it. But we've decided, I think, mostly that like figuring out our own compensation models and the promises that we make to one another has less and less to do with looking up industry standard in a book like Passman and saying intuitively what makes sense. What is what you're worth giving me? Do you promise to do it? You'd be willing to sign a contract that says you promise you're going to keep giving me your music for a year? Let's just decide what's fair between us. And that's made a lot of sense.
It has. It's unique, and a lot of, you know, and when we do have these meetings with other people, it's like, they're like, wait, so you don't have your artist signed to your label? And we're like, no, sorry. Because, you know, they want to see that. They want to know that there's some paperwork there that ties us all together. We've talked about it. We've actually drafted contracts up, and it just never felt right. Because at the end of the day, you know, if I hate you at some point and I'm signed to your label, like, it's just going to be so bad. It's going to be bad.
And it's almost like hippies on marriage or something. At some point, I'm just like, if you really don't want to be here, I want you to go. I don't want to keep you if you hate it. I want you to try for years to start liking it again.
Sure.
But after that, if you hate it, like, I want you to be good. I want your music to be good, and I've got your back. And if that's better done elsewhere, then do it. Greed, that's not a good reason, period. That's not a good reason. But we're here to support you. We're here to try to get your music out. I know that they've got my back too. You know, and there has been some challenges. I mean, we all started making pretty similar music, and now I'm like singing over string quartets, you know, and
Dessa's playing theaters, and yeah, it's different. It's a challenge to keep 7. So, you know, we're a label by necessity, but it's tough to keep 7 solo artists happy, and also as they go on their own separate courses and as they grow and as they want to do different things, how do we still maintain this unity even if what this person makes now looks completely different from what this person makes? So that has been a challenge that continues with us. I like that challenge because there is a way to make it work. It just takes a lot of talking.
And I think at first I was freaked out by the counsel of a lot of business advisors, you know, with whom we'd like casually meet, and they'd be like, this is unsustainable, this is unsustainable, this is an unsustainable business model. And then we just sort of kept unsustaining for like 10 years, you know? Yeah. And at this point I'm like, I know, it's just gonna crash and burn, I gotta go to work though. You know, I'll catch you later.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, like we did start out at 7, well, it was more, it was probably like 11 people, you know, we kind of showed each other how to make rap songs in a way, but beyond making music together, we were like, you know, there was so much to do. We didn't know anybody else that was going to do it for us. So we had to, you know, for almost 8 years straight, every Wednesday night we did a Doomtree meeting. We all showed up. We, you know, from almost the jump, we had assigned roles. So I remember in the beginning, I was just the beat maker or whatever. So I didn't have many roles yet. But I was the archiver. So this is back when you still like went out and grabbed the city pages and photocopied it so you could add it to like your press book. But so I had to go out, and anytime anything came out in publication, I had to go grab it, get like 10 copies, and I still have like a basement full of this stuff. Yeah, I should burn it. But you know, I did that, and before we had an LLC where we could have an actual checking account, I had a little yellow ledger and a cash box, and it was like, okay, we made $30 from the last show, now we can print up 50 more CDRs, go to Micro Center, like, you know, and it started that way, and Dessa was writing press releases, and you know, who can do whatever they can do. It's 7 people, and I hope that I still have at home like a sheet that has our initial roles and responsibilities, but we really had to designate that for ourselves because no one else was going to do it.
I remember not all of us had phones, so whenever we had news, one of my jobs was to go to the coffee shop where I thought Cecil Otter would be and to ask if he'd been there, and then leave a little note on the fridge like, hey, the meeting's moved to 5:30 or whatever, you know? And it has been very slowly just formalizing almost exactly those same things. So now, technically on paper, you know, Lazerbeak is the president of Doomtree Records, and he still does all our taxes and keeps all of us on point, and makes some, you know, some of the big strategic decisions for Doomtree. And I'm technically the CEO, but it very much kind of rose from those. I suppose the guy who got the money and the girl who calls the reporters.
Yeah, right, totally.
Yeah.
But it's very much like on paper, so we can have a checking account to put our show money into. You know what I mean? Like, that's why it says president and CEO. But we're still just these 7 people that figure out a way every day. You know, how are we best gonna fit this? How are we best gonna make this work? More questions?
It's all so clear. Who else is getting ready to put out projects? 1, 2, 3. A lot of people. Well, okay, hit us, man. Like, what if everything isn't going exactly as you'd hoped? If you have any questions, like, what are the biggest challenges about trying to figure out how to like get some leeway, get some leverage, get some air? Yeah.
This might be like redundant.
Yeah.
But okay, so the main thing is like you want to have a show, right? Like you want to have a showcase so people can hear you. But it's kind of a catch-22 thing because you want to have a show like say the entry, but you have to have a draw to be able to like get the entry to say like, yo, you can be here tonight.
Word.
But you need to have a show to have a draw. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
how do you? I mean, I guess it's pretty much like you guys always say, like always grind and whatnot. But how do you get a big enough draw, or even like 10 people, so that you can get this show, so that you can get your product out there? Like it's kind of like a little balancing.
Totally. I think we didn't even touch on shows yet. I think that's a big part of this all.
Repeat the question.
So she's wondering, basically, the live element, like how do you get the shows? You know you want to have a show here and you know you want this to be a big thing, but the club's not going to take you until they know you can bring people in, and like the catch-22 of that. It's tough and it's different for everybody, but what worked for us and what worked for me even in junior high was I wrote a letter to a club that did all ages shows, and I just told them how much it meant to me that there was all ages shows in the city. And then I kept going to that club to see shows, and at one point I noticed my letter was on their refrigerator, and I was like, I'm in, you know? And I was like, yo, that's me. I wrote that letter, and they were like, oh, and I had included a 7-inch that the band had made, and then now we have this dialogue. And he was like, okay, well, we've got an off night, so we'll take a chance on you, see if you can bring some friends out. You got a Monday night or whatever. And then we brought 40 kids from junior high with us to this show, and we actually brought out a couple older people that were actually in the scene that I had similarly weaseled my way into knowing and convinced to come out. And then they took notice. They're like, wow, these kids for their first show brought, literally, if you bring 30 people out to your show on your first show, like, club will take notice to that.
You knock people out at 30.
They're surprised that you can bring your own group to that. So I mean, the grinding part comes after you get the show, right? So, if you know anyone that has a show, weasel your way into that opening slot of that show. You know, I'm not saying pay somebody money to play a show, but like, don't get paid to play the show. All that kind of stuff. Take whatever you can get, whoever you know, be out there and be meeting people all the time, and just make it happen so you can get a show or two, so that you have something underneath your belt. And then I really think it is when it's time to make that move, even if you're playing to a coffee shop and it's your first big show and it only fits 40 people, like every friend you know, every family member, whatever, like they are coming to your show. They have to be there. And you can pay them back for the ticket or whatever. You can buy them a coffee when they get there, but like get some people in the door. And even if it's only friends of yours, like it's not like you're just gonna build this fan base out of nowhere. You start there. You impress people, and you keep impressing people, and gradually, friends tell friends, and you play with someone that maybe has a different draw, and those people see you and they like you, and it just slowly opens up, but it's not easy.
Also, to just call it on the mat a little bit, if you don't go to shows, you have no business talking about, I can't get people to go to my shows. In the same way that if you don't read the papers, you have no business complaining that you can't get in them. Done, period, that's over. So, you make connections by like physically putting your body into the room where those shows are happening. I mean, also, you know, Lazerbeak and I are like, this is a decent stage. You know, there's a lot of people over here for lunch. Building that first 10, like you said, that first 10 or 15, like you can get 10 or 15. You've got friends here, you know? Even if you just make like a pact and everybody like skips coffee for a week, you know, and saves up a little grind, and is like, okay, for us 7 people, whenever you got a show, I'm going, you know, this year, and whenever I have a show, you guys are going. I mean, make little packs like that. So you all end up investing what, $40 in your own career by covering, you know, that $5 door tickets. Fair enough, man. $40. If you want this bad, you can do $40. You can. You can. You just can, right? I heard an author on the radio saying, you know, for everybody who can't get a publishing deal, stop bitching unless you buy hardcover books, because that's how authors make money, and unless you support the art in some small way on occasion, and you make yourself familiar with it and see how it's working, you can't expect it to be a completely one-way street. So, you know, Lazerbeak is like going to those shows as a kid. You know, he really does dig that venue. And if you can't right now think of half a dozen venues in Minneapolis and half a dozen venues in St. Paul, then that might be like a great way to spend tonight, you know? Just like becoming a little more familiar, particularly with those entry-level clubs. Like everything, there's kind of like that hierarchy, you know, like 7th Street is a small room. It holds like legally 250, in actuality probably 350. But it's like kind of prestigious because it's associated with First Ave, you know? So the room that Chris Osgood just mentioned, Amsterdam Bar and Hall, I just went there for the first time because I was like, it's a new spot, I should probably check it out. What a killer sound system, man. For like a cheap sound system, I thought that sounded great. It sounded so good. My boyfriend's band just played there. He's making his name, his first year in the band or whatever. And I was like, man, this is like the best sound that I've ever heard you out. Was there a lot of people there? No. But they really played their hearts out, you know? I think those people will come back. So one of the things you can do, like Beak mentioned, is to try to, if you know anybody with a show, weasel your way on. A great way to weasel, dude, I'll do press for you. I'll spend those 4 hours looking up all those reporters' names, and I'll do press for the whole show. You just send me the link to your Facebook and your press shot, and I promise, and I'll copy you on it. And you'll see I sent it to at least 15 reporters, and even if they don't cover it, we're at least on their radar now. Another thing, I had Sonia from First Avenue and Kermit from the Triple Rock come in, like, I don't know, so 5 months ago or something, to talk about what they liked when bands did. One of the things that they said is they like prepackaged bills. So get with, you know, 3 homies or whatever and do a full bill. Like, hey, if you've ever got a night where you're looking to fill it up, you just call me, and then I fill up the whole night. So you don't have to call 4 or 5 artists, you know, to assemble the whole thing. I got this. I got a headliner, I got a main support, and I got an opener. And if you want, I got an iPod full of music for in-between acts. Like, no work for you, all on me. And we're young and we're building, so I can't promise a huge draw, but I promise we'll all promote. And I'll copy you on the press release when I send it so that you can see that I'm doing my due diligence. What Sonia said was, you can have great music and suck as a human being and not promote. Or you can have bad music and promote really hard. Either way, I'll book you. The only time I won't book is if you suck as a person and you don't promote. But they talked about how like willing they were to give bands a chance on those Monday nights. And Kermit was like, if you draw 30, you're killing it in your first couple of years. And he said that not to flatter anybody, and that stunned me. I was like, are you? I was like, yeah, dude. If you bring 30 cats out as a single act, you're killing it, even if that is just friends. And friends have girlfriends. Friends have boyfriends. Friends have cousins in town, you know, who all kind of come to check out the show.
Totally.
Great question. Are there any others? Or did you just give her a dap for good questioning? Killer question, my guy.
Yeah. So what's been the best marketing strategy that's worked for you guys?
It's a good question. He was asking the best marketing strategy that's worked for Doomtree up to this date. I mean, I really think that we've been able to establish ourselves because of this core base of people that support us, and they support us beyond the music that we make. Like, we've somehow been able to get a real personal connection, and we've tried to maintain a real personal feel, no matter how big we get. And I think that's our best marketing. Like, we have a mailing list still that we send stuff out to early, and we have pre-orders where we let like our core fans know about. I mean, this is a different level, I guess, so I shouldn't say.
That's a good point, though. Like, I'm gonna first answer in a super cheesy way, but I mean it. I know it sounds cheesy, but I do mean it. Best marketing, killer music. Do you know what I mean? And so I think a lot of cats are like, I'm good. Like guitarists, they're technically good. Or singers, they're technically good. If you don't have a product that indicates not only you're a good guitarist or a good singer, but like a good song, you know what I mean? Or a song suite or a classical composition, whatever you're working in. 1 or 2 pieces that is your best stuff, like Lazerbeak said before, your best foot forward. That is, I think, like the best marketing. But I know that's certainly not what you're asking about. I think best marketing for us, like the industry jargony term is, I know we're just a couple minutes, so we'll wrap up, but the jargony term is C2D, or D2C, which is direct to consumer marketing, which is usually what we've done. So it's like, we're not going through buying ads through magazines, you know, and then it gets to the consumer. It's like straight from us to the consumer. So the mailing list is a killer idea, and that's something that, it makes me sound old, but that's something that I don't understand why young bands don't do more. Like, I don't understand why everybody doesn't have the legal pad by their merch booth. Even if it's just like, hey man, come say hi, we got free stickers, you know, or get a download card, or just come, like, you know, cheers with your glass of coffee, or your cup of coffee, or your glass of beer, or whatever. Come say, hey, we're at the table. And grab people's addresses, like, that's free. And then every time you have a show, even if nobody cares about it, you know, nobody in the press world or in the radio world picks it up, you have the opportunity to make sure that everybody who had any interest in you, 100% rate of success, knows that we've got another show on Thursday at the Amsterdam Bar and Hall. So, you know, 10 years in the game, my biggest goal for Doomtree 2 months ago, I was talking to our intern, Ander. I was like, I want to get the mailing list up to 10,000 had been my goal. I want 10,000, you know, signees on the mailing list by next month or whatever. So that's still really at the fore for us. Is because it's like, again, I don't need anybody else to make that work. I don't have to rely on anyone except for me and Lazerbeak and Ander. I just write it and send it.
Yeah, and I think the more personal you can just present your stuff, like, you will connect with an audience more. Like, so I do Tuesdays with Lazerbeak Blog on Doomtree.net, and that seemed like a way that it first started out just a way to like kind of connect with people and let people know that we're more than just like a CD that you pick up in a store. Like, we are dudes and a girl. And but you know, like, we're just hanging out too. We're doing this music and to like be able to relate more with people, and we found slowly over the first year of doing that this is now our way of kind of rolling out new information, because now everyone knows to go to the website on Tuesdays, because every week I've got something on there. And it went from like, here's a picture of my dog, to hey, the pre-order started today, or like, hey, we got a tour coming up. It now has become like how we roll out information along with that mailing list. And that just kind of happened organically, but we've, like, now when I go on tour, half the people that come up and say hi to me afterwards are like talking about what I posted on the blog the week before, like, oh, I saw you went to a Gophers game, or, you know what I mean? Like, so now you've made that real personal connection, and it's not fake, it's real, and it's like, that's priceless, I think.
I totally agree. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, maybe last question, then we'll take a break. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly right.
Okay.
How does somebody get to be a Doomtree intern?
The question that Chris has was, how does somebody get to be a Doomtree intern? I might answer that first. The way that Ander, our only current official Doomtree intern, got to be it was on blind faith. He bought a ticket to Minneapolis from Bakersville, California, and hung out with us and asked to work for us for free until we finally said yes. So all you have to do is fly across the country, leave your mother and sister, sleep on some couches for a few months, and offer to work for free for about 1.5 years.
Or you could send a submission to info@doomtree.net. We don't, but I like yours better.
I'd like to know they mean it.
Yeah.
Let's take a stretch for a
Yeah.
couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks guys. Let's take a stretch and then we'll reconvene.
Awesome.
Thank these guys.